right, problem number 5. Wow, this looks like a lot to read. All right, so we have Jill, Judy, and Jackie, and they're going hunting for morel mushrooms. Okay, here's a picture in case you don't know what morel mushrooms are. This is what they look like, and they grow in the woods, and people go out in the fall and try to find them, and then they cook them. And so anyway, they're out mushroom hunting, and at the end of the day, Jill comes to collect her third of the mushrooms. However, there's one too many mushrooms to make equal thirds, so Jill takes the extra one and then a third of the remaining. And then Judy comes along, and she doesn't realize that Jill's already taken her mushrooms, and she notices that there's one too many to make equal thirds. So she takes one and then takes a third of the remaining. And then finally Jackie comes along, and she doesn't know that Jill and Judy already took some mushrooms, and so she notices there's one too many mushrooms to make equal thirds, so she takes the extra mushroom plus a third of the remaining. And so, assuming that no mushrooms are divided into pieces, what is the minimum possible number of mushrooms before Jill took any of them? Okay? Phew. Well, alright. Well, I'll tell you what. I tried a bunch of different things with this, and I ended up that what worked the best for me was just to make a table. Alright? So that's what I would recommend if you're looking for a hint, is just to make a table. And I started by making the table because by looking at multiples of 3. Because I knew that once Jill took the first mushroom, she had a multiple of 3 left. Okay? So here's what I did. I'm going to scroll down, give myself plenty of room. So let's list out some multiples of 3. We have 3, 9, we have 6. Whoops, what am I doing? Sorry. 3, 6, 9. Alright, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Then we have 33, 36, and I'll just go with that for now. If we need to add more, we'll add more, but we're looking for the minimum number. So hopefully we'll find it within these possibilities. Okay, so these are the possibilities for the number of mushrooms after Jill took the first one. Okay, so at the beginning we would have had like 4 or 7 or 10 or 13, 16, 19, 22, that's a 24, 25, 28, 31, 34, or 37. Okay? Alright, so we would have started with one of these values. I'm actually going to see if I can write this. S-T-A-R-T. Okay, so this is what we started with. And so after Jill took the first one, we had a multiple of 3. Okay? And then she took a third of that remaining. So she either took 1, or she took 2, or she took 3, or she took 4, or 5, or 6, or 7, or 8, or 9, or 10, or 11, or 12. And then what was left over, so this is what she took. T-O-O-K. And then she left this many behind. Left. Okay. And so if she took 1, then she left 2. If she took 2, then she left 4, 6, 8. Looks like there's a pattern here. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay? So, alright. So now this is the possibilities after Jill took her mushrooms. Okay? So these are the possibilities that we would have left. And we know that we had to have one more than a multiple of 3 because when Judy came along, then she said there was one more. She saw that there was one more than a multiple of 3. Okay, so we can actually cross out any of the multiples of 3 here because we know we don't have a multiple of 3. Right, so 12 and 18 and 24, those can't be possibilities anymore because then Judy comes along, she notices that what's left is one more than a multiple of 3. Okay, so so let's see, which possibilities could we have? This is one more than a multiple of 3. So if we, okay, she takes one. So let's look at one less than a multiple of 3, or one less for each one of these. So here we'd have 1. Okay, obviously that isn't going to work because we're not left with a multiple of 3. Okay, this gives us 3. This gives us 7. This gives us 9. You can see here 7 is not a possibility anymore because it's not a multiple of 3. This would be 13, and that eliminates that because that's not a multiple of 3. This would be 15, and that's good. 20, this would be 19. 21, okay, so 19, that doesn't work. That's not a multiple of 3. So, so after Judy took her first one, so this is Judy, and we're going to do the same thing we did for Jill. So she takes 1, and then she takes a third of the rest. So she took a third of the rest, and we'll figure out how much she left behind. And we know again that that has to be one more than a multiple of 3. Okay, so it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities. So so if there were 3 after she took one of them, then she would have taken 1 and left 2. If there were 9, then she would have taken a third, which is 3, and left 6. If there were 15, she would have taken 5 and left 10. And if there were 21, she would take 7 and leave 14. Okay? Alright, so again, this is Judy. So this is the possibilities that she would have left behind when she went away. Okay, when Jackie comes along. And we know that Jackie also sees that the number of mushrooms is one more than a multiple of 3. Okay, so then she takes the extra, so let's do that again. So this would be 1, that's not a multiple of 3, so that eliminates this possibility. And this would leave 5, this is not a possibility because the amount left was a multiple of 3 to begin with, so if she takes one more, it's not one more than a multiple of 3, so that doesn't work. And this gives us 9. Hey, there's a multiple of 3. That finally is something that works. And then let's see, this would leave 13, and that's not a multiple of 3, so this is not a possibility. Okay, so the only thing we're left with is this row right here. Okay, so if that's the case, then Jackie, let's write Jackie up here. Jackie, she took 1 and then a third of the rest. So T-O-O-K, alright? And so she's going to take 3 and leave 6. Alright? L-E-A-V. Alright? And that is the only one that works. And we're looking for the smallest number, the minimum number of mushrooms that there could have been. So the smallest one we can come up with is this row here, right here, which would mean that we started with 25. Okay, so then Jill took 1 and then a third of the remaining, and she left 16. Then Judy took 1 plus a third of the remaining, and she left 10. And then Jackie took 1 plus a third of the remaining and left 6. So 6 of them went to waste, I guess. We don't know what happened to them. But the minimum possible number of mushrooms that there could have been in the beginning before Jill took any mushrooms is 25. Alright, so that's the answer.